The Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CarrieLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
1490 WGCH. This is Carrie Lutz, and you're listening to the Financial Survival Network, which is brought to you by Miles Franklin. They've been in business selling gold and silver for over 20 years, and I'm a customer because when you buy, they ship. For more information, find them on the web at milesfranklin.com or give them a call at 800-822-8080 and get a free quote. So much is happening in the world. It's no longer U.S.-centric, which is why I've brought in Dan Collins from the China Money Report to really give us the inside scoop of what's going on in what will eventually be the world's largest economy. And if you want to find out more about him, it's the ChinaMoneyReport.com. Great site. Hey, Dan, thanks for coming on here. How are you today?
Hi, Kerry. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
So where are you located? Where am I talking to you right now?
I'm in Shanghai.
Uh-huh. And for those who've been dumbed down by the American school system, and that's most of us, that's in mainland China. What section of China exactly?
Yeah, we're very far eastern coast, kind of almost a little bit south across the sea from Korea. It's about the middle of the country on the east coast.
Okay. And you've lived in China for 15 years. Where are you from originally in the States?
I'm originally from the Detroit area. Came to China as an exchange student right out of school, and graduated when I was over here in China. Learned Chinese, worked for General Motors as an engineer here for about 7-8 years. Was executive in GM before I was 30. Then recently I was CEO of a Chinese industrial firm. We had around $200 million in sales. And last year I started my own asset management company in Hong Kong, and as well as the China Money Report, which is my subscriber newsletter for Chinese equities.
So you've really been ahead of the trend because, like I mentioned to you before, I was in China 15 years ago as a tourist, and I loved it there. I loved the people, but I couldn't wait to get to civilization in Hong Kong because, you know, it was just a backhole, but you could see the potential there. It was an incredible experience that I will never forget and treasure, and I hope to go back again soon. So you obviously fell in love with what you saw there, and you saw the opportunity. And now we hear from a guy by the name of Gordon Chang a lot of gloom and doom about what's about to happen in China. And we have seen tremendous inflation there, far higher real or stated than what's happened in the U.S. Where is the Chinese economy right now from your vantage point, Dan?
Okay. Yeah, Gordon, I read his book, The Coming Collapse of China. That was written about 12 years ago. So he's a little bit early behind the curve. By his own admission, he's only been to China twice. So I see this guy's articles. I really don't take him as a serious commentator. China is right now going through an engineered slowdown. So the funds rate out of the central bank right now is about 5%, which translates into about 9% for commercial loans. 2 years ago, loans were only 5%. So in addition to that, they increased the reserve requirements of the banks up to 20%. So the reason why they've done this, China has slammed on the brakes on the economy on purpose because inflation was really getting out of control. And when the crisis happened, China, as a percentage of GDP, wrote the biggest stimulus check in the world. And this money just went into the system and went right into property, went right into cars. And we've had vegetable prices up 4 or 5 times in 3 years. You know, real inflation was running at 10%. So that's why China is engineered to slow down, and it's actually good news that they are slowing down. If they had kept growing at 10 or 12% in a world where they can't even grow 1%, it would have been more troublesome than what we see now.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, the growth that we've seen, because obviously the U.S. was the model for the whole industrialized world. The Industrial Revolution, going back in history, if you didn't know, started in England in the mid 1800s. We had the Civil War in the United States, which really sparked the Industrial Revolution because both sides needed all this weaponry and to kill each other off and try to win. And I remember reading a book about the Civil War, which said that before the Civil War, there really wasn't anything worth fighting over. And it was only after the Civil War, when it spurred the industrial economy, it started. And then basically the government was very weak after the Civil War. Wasn't a lot they could do other than send some troops here and there, try to keep the South pacified. And that led, and then also we had sound money because we went off the greenback onto free money, basically. And we had gold up until the First World War. We were on the classical gold standard with the rest of the world. That led to a period of prosperity unknown to man. And then the Chinese, being students of history, understood this. And in a lot of respects, they improved upon what we had and perhaps changed it a bit, adding an Asian flavor. And I'm getting a little bit off the track, but I kind of see China, from what I've what I've read, it's approaching at some point a 1929 moment, like the U.S. did, where, and in a way, the Chinese character, and I've known a lot of Chinese people, I've seen them, the world's a casino to them, and they won't just go to a casino like I've seen them up in Connecticut and just be happy winning $1,000. They want to break the bank. They want to close Monte Carlo down. And if there's any flaw in the Chinese character, it's that. The intelligence level blew me away when I was there. The knowledge and the distrust and despising of the government. They hate the government. All good things. All things indicative of free-thinking people. And yet the gambling nature, the casino, I mean, they make Goldman and JP look like they're at the $5 table. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the casinos. I mean, the interesting thing on the casinos is Chinese are superstitious by nature compared to Americans. And when they think they're lucky, and they'll play it until they think their luck goes away. You look at Macau this year. I just did some numbers. Macau this year had $33 billion in gambling revenue compared to Las Vegas of $5 billion.
Yeah.
It was only a few years ago, Macau was just about the level of Vegas. It's now 5 to 6 times bigger. I mean, not that that's that's example of how much the Chinese love gambling. But
yeah, and you go in the States, and they are the whales at the casinos, because a lot of them who've maybe gotten their wealth from somewhat shadowy means, they don't really want the government tracking their play in Macau. I was in Macau 15 years ago. They still had floating casinos. They had a bunch of games that I couldn't figure out how to play. And just a quick anecdote, my wife and I, who, she had long, straight, dark hair, but, we were the only Americans in this casino. And we go up to this game. She said, go ahead, play a couple of hands. And I'm watching, the tiles fly. And I have this WTF moment, like, I can't play this game. And the table goes quiet, totally quiet, while they're looking at us. And then I kind of just shrug and I walk away, and they burst out hysterical laughing. And I wouldn't say I was embarrassed. I was really amused by the whole thing, because the cultures came together and they didn't mix. But back then the local mob ran Macau. There was a couple of good Portuguese restaurants there. And basically, it was a place where the Chinese could just go and let go and be who they really were. It was a great thing. And now this is a casino theme park with the Caesar's Palace and the Venetian
Yep.
Adelson's thing there. It's really kind of remarkable when you think about it. But
Yeah, if you look at our American gaming companies, you look at the Las Vegas Sands, 11% of their revenues now come from Vegas. Everything else is coming from Macau and Singapore.
Yeah.
Steve Wynn, his operation, 28% of his revenues are coming from Vegas. The rest are all in Macau. So, I mean, it's absolutely staggering, the numbers there.
Yeah, the superstitions are real interesting. And I really respect those people because they know basically that government is evil and no good and is out to hurt them. And they take precautions, whereas in the U.S., and I hate to use this term, even though my assistant loves it, we have a bunch of sheeple who think that the government cares about them and that they care for you and they'll take care of you and make sure nothing bad's going to happen. And the Chinese save half their income because they know push comes to shove, the government's not going to be there for them. And they buy bullion because they don't even believe that the government's going to be able to keep the monetary system going. And there's all these things that are really leading them to the front because it's the Wild West, like some people have said, the Wild East.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you look at housing. That's why housing is so popular here. People want real assets. They don't trust fiat. One of the biggest investment products here now is gold and silver. You can have your bank account here in one of the big four Chinese commercial banks. You can have your savings in gold, and you can sell that paper gold every day as if it's like a bank account. So, yeah, absolutely. The big mistrust of the government here. They kind of tolerate it. They're absolutely very fast to hit the streets, and they put up with it for now. I believe that in 10 years we'll probably see democracy in China, some form of it. You had Hu Jintao, the premier, at his last speech. He said, we've already integrated village-wide elections. If a village can do it, a town can do it. If a town can do it, a city can do it. And if a city can do it, a province can do it. So eventually, they're going to have to roll out democracy because democracy gives a relief valve to all the pressure in society. At the end of the day, like in the States, we say, well, we picked them, so we're stuck with them. Over here, they don't have that. They do hit the streets fast.
Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of riots there. And they don't know from eminent domain. Well, they know from the eminent part, but not from the just compensation. And I've read about riots occurring when they want to build something. They said, okay, goodbye, here's $1,000 and, go find another place to live. And the people put up with it when they built the dam. But now they will not allow it. And there's a spirit there of individualism, of the person being sovereign that we've lost in the Western world. And I don't know how you get that back. And that individual sovereignty, and it's not that you're in control, because you're not, because the external events, earthquakes, floods, financial panics, famines, you name it, you can't control that. But somehow you have the right and you're left alone to cope and to succeed or fail. And people don't understand that. Like everybody in the U.S., it's like they're in class and everybody thinks they should get an A. And there's nothing about earning it. And even if you fail, don't worry, you'll move up to the next grade. That doesn't exist in China, does it?
No, not at all. Yeah, that's in America, the people coming of age now in their 20s are basically the everybody gets a trophy generation. Over here, there's a fire that people have, like you mentioned, because guys in their 40s and 50s remember being hungry, and that's the difference. And that's why, I just had a article on my site a few days ago. Chinese students in high school were cramming for studies by taking IVs with amino acids.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. That was amazing. Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, the thirst for success here, I mean, it's pervasive. Everybody's... here, if you don't give a worker 12 hours, they will quit and find someone who will give them 12 hours. They don't want 8 hours. So, I mean, the people here are just working so hard. There's a hunger. They've been hugely educated. Shanghai here, where I'm at, has the highest math science scores in high school and for anywhere in the world. And, that is all kind of a virtuous cycle that is propelling China upward.
Yeah, I love it. It's just such a great thing to hear, even though it's not here in the U.S. right now, and in many other parts of the world, at least that drive and that what the Austrians would say, that desire, because we all enter into transactions because we want to come off better than we did before. And the ability to create wealth is when both parties on a mass scale, obviously, enter into these transactions and boost, win-win. I hate that term win-win because it sounds like a pop psych thing, but God, it's so true. And, I could go on talking with you for hours about it because it's a laboratory. And, do they have a minimum wage in China, Dan?
They do have minimum wage, but nobody's paying that. If you pay minimum wage, you won't find workers here. Wages have roughly almost doubled in about 4 years. The wages, you can't, I was, have a lot of experience with industrial companies that, Chinese company I ran had 1,000 workers. And if you can't find workers nowadays in factories. So you had the one-child generation coming up. A lot of their parents don't want them to come to the East Coast to work in the factories. So there's intense pressure now on factories just to find labor. And that's been driving up the wages. And I think at the end of the day, that will boost consumption in China as well.
Yeah, well, like you said, the biggest BMW dealer selling 7 Series BMWs. That's the ultra luxury model, the 750i.
7 Series.
Yeah. 750, yeah. So that's right there in China, and all these other numbers that are just staggering. And I talked to.
Yes, I mentioned Shanghai. The report came out this week. $90 billionaires in Shanghai, 370,000 US$ millionaires. So I mean, it's becoming really a huge city for global capital, and I think it will continue to see China impress. General Motors now sells more cars in China than they do the United States.
Buicks, too. Buicks.
Buick, absolutely. What people don't realize, too, is that not only do they sell more cars in China, but they're growing at 15-20% a year. So, and GM is almost on the cusp of becoming a Chinese company. So not only do you sell more in China, but you make all your profits in China. You're going to be allowed to list the company in China, in Shanghai. You'll probably get a PE of 15 to 20. United States, you get a PE of 5. You're doing all your purchasing in China. You're doing your electric vehicle engineering in China. And the U.S. is basically left with assembly of some cars. And so that's a whole nother issue where I've literally over 15 years here see American companies that are almost becoming Chinese companies in a way.
Yeah, they really don't have a choice. And you see it when you see the local content label in the U.S. I bought a Ford Edge a number of years ago. It was 70%. A couple of years later, I bought a Hyundai Santa Fe that was assembled, built in the U.S. I think they designed it here, too. And that had 50%. So I said, well, which one is more American? It's 20% more. I mean, it's ridiculous. But Dan, hey, thanks so much for being on here. Just tell people where to find you and learn more about what you're doing.
Yeah, you can find me at thechinamoneyreport.com.
Okay, excellent. And we're going to make this a regular feature because people don't really get what's going on. They don't really comprehend. If you're an average American, you don't really understand where the wealth is heading in the world. And you need to know this because this is going to be essential to surviving and keeping things together when the ultimate crash hits, which is probably going to be sooner rather than later. So, Dan, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Gary.